What is up, IDP Army? It's your man Jordan Rains at 50 Shades of Drunk. If you follow me on Twitter, if not, you're missing out on a good time. Back again, another episode of the IDP Army podcast, talking mostly IDP, all fantasy football. Little. We're gonna start today by recapping the Fantasy Football Expo, which myself and the offensive points guys just got back from. Talk a little bit about the Big Dog Bash, and then we're gonna do some news, and some notes, and some updates. Because we had a bunch of preseason games and a bunch of stuff has gone down. So stick around. It's going to be a great show. As always, thank you for joining us. If it is your first time here, thank you. If it is not your first time here, thanks for coming back. Like I said, we're going to talk about some fantasy football news and updates, but we're going to start by talking about the Expo. We just got back from the Expo, myself and the offensive points boys. If you don't know, that's the Fantasy Football Expo. It takes place in Canton, Ohio. It takes place at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is there. It's just Canton, Ohio. It's where football is born, if they say. So it was a really good time. The ride out there was myself and the offensive points boys. Rode all four of us in a car in my SUV out there. Drive was long, but when we got out there on Friday evening, we got to our hotel. We met up with IDP Bomber. Shout out to Jeremy. We had a great time with us out there, meeting him for the first time. Friday night, we went to a mixer type of event. We had a bags tournament the guys played in. Drank, had a good time, talked to a lot of fantasy football people, met a lot of friends from last year and people have come up with in the industry, et cetera, et cetera. It was a good time. I will say the industry overall is definitely growing. You can tell there's more people, there's more interest, there's more formats. I will also say individuals are growing and certain people are getting left behind and certain types of fantasy football are getting left behind. And I'm happy to say that IDP fantasy football is not one of those. The overall sentiment and the conversations I had with the people I had them with this year in Canton were overwhelmingly positive for IDP as far as more people playing IDP, more people asking me about, players in their actual leagues, more people saying that they're seeing and hearing more interest in IDP. Talk to some guys at Underdog, talk to some guys that had some other DFS type platforms, talk to just a lot of different people. And again, the sentiment for IDP is very, very strong. I'll say that. As far as the fantasy community overall goes, let me get a drink of coffee before I go to this one. Like I said, it's growing and there are certain people getting left behind is not the right word, but it's just like, some people were never really gonna grow or scale, I think, the way that they thought they were. Gary Vee talks about it a lot. He's like, people want to talk about how far up they are in the first quarter of a game or the second quarter of a game. It's if the game's 4 quarters, the only thing that matters is the end score. And I feel like a lot of people in the fantasy football, quote unquote, industry got up really, really early. And just blew their load, I guess is the right word. I don't really know what to make of it, but I'm happy to say that our brand is still here. We're stronger than ever. We were out there representing, making some new friends, some good relationships. Like I said, so much positive feedback coming back to us. The guys got to meet some really cool people on Saturday. We went to the Hall of Fame, walked around. Saturday afternoon, we were able to watch some of the Kings Classic draft, hung out the draft night out people. And then that evening, we had the flag football game, which was really fun, really interesting to watch. I didn't play it, and I watched it. It was actually really fun to watch. And then afterwards, we had a party, which was another good time. The drinks were a little expensive, won't lie to you, but we'll get that sorted out next year. Don't worry about that. And then Sunday was the actual Expo. Expo itself was bigger this year, I thought, than last year overall. But I think the venue could use a facelift, if I'm being honest. I think that we're maybe outgrowing what it is and what it was these last 2 years. It was a great time, but I think that next year it could be done a little bit better. And that's not to say anything was wrong with it, but I'm just saying there's so much raw potential and there's so many meaningful fantasy football individuals and fans and people that love the game all in one spot, and not just one spot, but in Canton, Ohio at the Football Hall of Fame. And I feel like we didn't maximize what we could have done, or it hasn't been maximized, but I'm looking forward to next year maximizing that out. So if you didn't go, or if you're thinking about going to the Fantasy Football Expo, I can't recommend it enough as a fan or as a creator or whatever. I mean, I would describe it as Comic-Con for fantasy football. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot go wrong anywhere or everywhere on the campuses or the locations where this is happening, because there's something there for you. So that's my fantasy football recap. I'll give them, I think the guys might talk about it on their show. They did yesterday. We'll talk about that more in depth maybe on the other side of this season. Right now, we're gearing up for actual football, which is what you are here for. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about that a little bit. Before we get into that, though, I want to say shout out to the Patreons. Shout out to everyone we met at the Expo. Everybody who, signed up for the Patreon. Everybody that got a shirt. Everybody that subscribed to the channel. All that good stuff. Thank you. All right, let's get to it. News. We've had a lot of stuff happen the last couple of weeks. Derwin James and Joe Schobert signings, probably the biggest among them. Joe Schobert signed first. He signed with the Denver Broncos. He did go visit with the Saints and the Broncos we saw earlier this offseason. Ended up signing with the Broncos. I think it's kind of funny / interesting, or, whatever you want to call it, but Russell Wilson's there right now. He's from Wisconsin. Melvin Gordon's there. He's from Wisconsin. And when Joe Schobert went there, I actually went and looked to see if how many years he had crossover playing with those two. He did play with Melvin a little bit. And I thought, man, maybe he'll end up signing there. And boom, there he is. So last year, not his greatest year of his career, still was able to have his 5th consecutive year with over 100 tackles. Joe Schobert was playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, my Pittsburgh Steelers, not the banner season I wanted. Only 1 quarterback hit, only 2 tackles for loss. It was a very kind of mundane season for Joe Schobert. The year before that, 6 tackles for loss. The year before that, 7. And then the tackle totals were well over 130 both of those seasons. 29 years old this year. I think with the Broncos, he's going to be a great IDP asset to add. This time last year, he was in my top 12. Right now, he's not, but he's going to produce. We've seen him produce at a high level. He has 3 top 10 finishes, top 12 finishes at linebacker. Last year was not a top 12 finish, but he still, it wasn't a terrible season, like I said. Not what we wanted, though. But this signing, definitely relevant for IDP fantasy. Like I said, he should not be on waiver wires. I believe I tweeted that out 3, 4, 5 days ago. Hopefully you listened and you were able to snag him. Derwin James, he was able to come through and get his contract today. 4 years, averaging $19.1 million a year. It was his first year back, fully, when I say back, first year fully healthy since his rookie season. And it's crazy, he's only played 3 seasons of his career, 3 seasons in his career, and he's now the highest paid safety in the league. Played his rookie season, got injured a second year, and then missed all of last year. All 2 years ago, 2020. Came out last year, had an incredible season, 118 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 5 pass deflections. He had 13 pass deflections his rookie season. But like I said, he's still Derwin James. He's a very multifaceted player. He can line up all over. He's one of those safeties that is good, deep. He's good up close to the line of scrimmage. He can match up on pretty much anybody the offense can throw at him. So Brandon Staley and the guys over there with the Chargers decided to make him the highest paid safety in the league. Now he has more money than Minka. Now he has more money than Budda Baker. He has more money than Jamal Adams. And Jesse Bates is kind of the man left out here in the dark. He's kind of the man we'll have to see where the situation goes for him. The 2 years ago, PFF's highest graded safety, and right now, he's having to hold out with his own team. So Derwin James went ahead and reset the market again. We'll see what happens with Jesse Bates. I think they have the same agent too, so it'll be interesting to see how that actually plays out. Again, Derwin James last year, like I said, he came back and he was the number 1 overall defensive back. I had shaded him a little bit. I think I had him 5 or 6 last year in my rankings. He's number 1 for me this year. I'm not gonna deny who and what he is. at this point, which is a multifaceted player who can make impact plays behind the line of scrimmage, deep down the field, and he can, get his tackles. Like I said, 118 tackles for a defensive back. Sign me up. So no more Buda Baker, or no more Derwin James. I won't call it hate, but no more hesitancy around here. He is my number one defensive back. Speaking of which, two things quickly before we go on. One, you should go watch the live stream from the Fantasy Football Expo. I'll put the link here. It's a 10-minute, 25-second mark. But I time-stamped all of it. We have a lot of good interviews with people. Marcus Mosher, Ryan McDowell, Luke Sawhook, Jeff Bell from Football Guys. We had John Norton from Football Guys. Who else came by our booth? We had Andy Barons come by our booth, talk to us a little bit. We had all kinds of really cool people come by our booth, did interviews, got all kinds of good interactions. I time-stamped as much as I could in the comments or in the description of that video, so you guys don't have to watch all 5 hours of the stream. But go check that out. You'll find some really, really good information and some fun little interviews in there, which I'm going to cut up and add to TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and all that stuff. But anyway, I wanted to quickly say that before I forgot, because I already had forgotten. Speaking of which, let's just go ahead and get to it. The Dallas Cowboys alpha drops. Okay. While we were at our booth on Sunday, Marcus Mosher came around. Marcus Mosher covers the Cowboys. Came by our booth, talked to us a little bit last year. And he asked us who we thought who sleepers for the Cowboys was. This conversation goes on for a minute, and he starts dropping some serious alpha on us. He told us, and go check this out. You can see it yourself or hear it yourself. This is the first year, he talked to Malik Hooker last week. This is the first year since 2014 that he has been healthy, not rehabbing some sort of injury, not dealing with something. That's big. Okay. That makes him when he came out the year Jamal Adams came out. I think he was even drafted higher than Jamal Adams. He was a very, very high level safety prospect. Hearing that he's doing well, better than ever before, maybe. Definitely some sleeper potential there. The other alpha that Marcus dropped on us was that Jerron Kearse is the, quote, leader of the defense. That's what he says. So he's wearing the green dot. He said he plays with tenacity and everyone on the team respects him, and he is like their guy. And I believe it. We actually had he's my defensive back 18. If you go back, check out our defensive back video from I did earlier, like last month. And, he's earned it. He came through this year for them, 2.24 points per snap for us, but over a 2% impact play rate. That's your forced fumbles, pass deflections, interceptions, all your big plays. Tackle rate at 10% for a safety, rock solid numbers. And coming straight from the mouth of Marcus Mosher, he is the leader of this defense. And we kind of saw that last year. I don't think he had a single digit game last season either. So Jerron Kearse is an ascending player. I have him right now at 18. Maybe he needs to go even a little bit higher? Question mark, potentially. But I wanted to drop that in here for you guys and just kind of give him a shout out and say, if you are watching the show and you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, your safety situation might actually be looking up for fantasy and for real life. Okay, so the next little bit of info we got to go over here is my Steelers linebackers, okay? It ain't pretty for Devin Bush. All right. It ain't pretty for Devin Bush. I actually had a conversation in Canton with a fella I really respect, one of the other Jordans, Jordan Vanek over at 33rd Team. And he played football with Devin Bush and some other guys down there in South Florida. So he's got a lot of good stories. We had a really good talk. But one of the things he said is just, the knee injury, the explosiveness, he's like, it's just, he hasn't been the same. I won't lie to you. I'm a Steelers fan. I've been living in a little bit of a world of denial. I've been like, he'll get back. Just give him his time. Give him time. We'll get it sorted out. It's just not what you want to hear. I'll just read this. I mean, I found these two tweets. He was actually trending on Twitter for the bad reasons. But something here that somebody said, one of the coaches, Tara Austin, says, sometimes as coaches, we like guys that know their assignments and do their assignments, but they never make a play. The whole deal is to being able to do your assignments and make a play. That's really what we're looking for in Devin Bush. So he knows what to do. He's just not making the plays. And on a Steelers team, that's something that's going to stick out like a sore thumb if you can't make plays. When you got guys like Minka, when you got guys like Cam Hayward, when you got TJ Watt, you can't hide. There's no one to hide behind. When you're the odd man out, it's noticeable. Tommy Jaggy, another guy who follows the Steelers very closely, a guy I've watched and respected for a long time, one of my favorite guys to follow from there. Trust his opinion. He's got Devin Bush in the down column. He's got Miles Jack actually in the up column. He did not put anything in his tweet here about Robert Spillane, but I have been seeing some things about Robert Spillane. Another guy who, if you've been watching this channel for a while, he's been a common waiver wire player for the last 2 or 3 years, with all of the issues the Steelers have had at linebacker. So what you want to know from me is, what do I do with Devin Bush? Right now, there's nothing you can do. You just have to hold Devin Bush if you have him. You can't trade him away because you're not going to get anything for him. And I wouldn't be trying to trade for him because the person who's going to trade him away from you is probably on the brink of dropping him or just sending him away in like a cheap package. So practically speaking, what are you going to do? Nothing. I mean, I'm sorry. I know the pain because I've had Devin Bush for a while in some leagues. It's tough. Sometimes you draft players and they just don't pan out. That's not to say that he won't be a plug-and-play guy down the road for a different team doing other stuff, but it's not good overall for him. Now, what does this mean for Miles Jack and Spillane? That means good things. If Robert Spillane's on your waiver wire, go get him. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having him on your waiver wire right now because Devin Bush might get traded, and who knows? I mean, maybe get cut. I don't know. It could be that bad. Miles Jack is a very high, well-paid linebacker as well. We don't need Devin Bush to stick around. So, yeah, not looking good. But I say the actionable things you can do here is maybe make a somewhat aggressive trade for Miles Jack. Didn't never think I'd say that. And then check your waiver wire for Robert Spillane in earnest, because he could end up being a valuable asset for you in IDP this year, especially if Devin Bush ends up, getting kicked to this curb. All right, let's move down to a couple other things we got here. A couple other big pieces of news, or new pieces of news. Carl Nassib resigns. I say resigns because he used to be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Resigns with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His DL depth, Jason Pierre-Paul is still, he's basically gone. So we have Shaq Barrett, the guy whose name I cannot say. He's in the index. Shout out to Bomber for that. But Carl Nassib signs there. It's basically a depth play. So I'm going to keep an eye on. He has been getting better the last few years. He's still kicking it around the league. So keep an eye on him. But, I'm not worried about Carl Nassib necessarily in IDP unless I'm playing, deeper dynasty. Maybe I have like 4 DL starters or something like that. John Bostic signed with the Saints. This was a good signing for them. They need another linebacker there. We saw that Kiko Alonso went, played for a day, retired. We saw that Joe Schobert went, visited with them, and then ended up eventually signing with the Broncos. So John Bostic signs. Not a name that's, setting the world on fire, but he's a veteran linebacker, which the theme with this New Orleans team, especially on defense, is veterans. There's a lot of guys, not saying like at the twilight of their career, but guys that are just like the Saints are pushing for a title this year, and I don't think that should be something that you should laugh off just because Jameis is there or whatever. Every one of these guys that's signing here, they're ring hunting straight up in New Orleans. Cameron Jordan will tell you that. I'm sure Mark Ingram would tell you that. I'm sure John Bostic would tell you that. I'm sure DeMario Davis would tell you that. Okay, so they're ring hunting. John Bostic will, like I said, he's been an IDP asset in the past that we've been able to use. Probably have some good weeks for you, so keep an eye on him. Then we did have a few players coming up off of the PUP list, which was Marcus Peters from Baltimore, Randy Gregory, DL for the Denver Broncos, and then Marcus Davenport, DL for the Saints. Like I said, he's one of their younger guys, but he feels old because he's been beat up. But all these guys activated from the PUP, all of them have potential to be in your IDP lineups this season. Marcus Peters, I'm interested to see how he is coming off the ACL tear, but I don't think that he's somebody we should ignore. He's been, has a ton of interceptions in his career. He's a tenacious player. He's an instinctual player. So keep an eye on him, especially in cornerback leagues. He's one of the best safety or defensive backs in the league, cornerbacks in the league, or was for a long time. So coming off the injury, wouldn't surprise me if he slips a little bit. And if you're in a cornerback specific league, he's the kind of guy you want to get, a high quality, high level player, multiple interceptions. He's led the league in interceptions before. I believe he had like 2 or 3 seasons where he had like well over 100 return yards as well, just on interceptions. So he's a ball hawk. We'll have to see again how he is coming off the ACL, but they kept him around. He's still there. I expect him to play plenty of snaps. And if he is crappy, injured or whatever, he'll probably get picked on a lot. So he might have a season. I could see a potential career high tackles from Marcus Peters. We'll have to see. Randy Gregory had some big games last year for the Cowboys, but overall, he doesn't really excite me. Even Denver defense doesn't excite me. I put him on here. Again, some people like him. He can have games, but he's not a guy I don't think you're going to draft and be playing every single week. Marcus Davenport, that could be a different story with Davenport. I think there is actually some potential for him to end up being a player you can play quite a bit this upcoming season. I was kind of down on him the first couple of years of his career coming in because everyone was so high on him. Now he's kind of faded from the conversation because he's been part of the conversation for so long without deserving to be there. Now that he kind of actually went out and did something this last year, still kind of got banged up towards the end of the season. I think he might have even come close to what did old Davenport do as far as sacks? I think he had like 8 or 9 this last year. It was a pretty solid number. He had 9 sacks this last year, only played in 11 games. People are, finally came around, had a decent season, and now nobody wants to talk about him. I'm just saying. So keep an eye on Marcus Davenport. And then down here at the very bottom, you probably can't see because I didn't change the format, but it says Jamin Davis has been flashing in camp. I saw those reports come out today. Take them with a grain of salt, I guess. I still think Cole Holcomb's the guy you're going to want there on that, at that linebacker spot. But there's room for Jamin Davis to get out on the field. They drafted him in the first round last year, linebacker out of Kentucky. Had high hopes for him. They say a lot of positive things about him in general. But, again, they said this last year in training camp, and when it came down to the season, he just couldn't stay on the field. So we'll have to kind of see what's up with Jamin Davis, see if he can get on the field this year, and if he can actually be that every down linebacker that we all want in IDP fantasy football. So that's the news and updates. I mean, that's the highlights. There's other little signings, little tiny things, but there's nothing major that's really happened in IDP. That makes me want to talk or break it down or analyze it with you guys anymore. After this week, we'll probably do another. I got a couple things to tell you. One, go check out the website, idparmy.com, which I haven't put my rankings up there in a long time, but I did finally put my IDP rankings up there. So you can just look at the redraft rankings if you want. Obviously, go to Patreon if you want to get the premium, the tiered, you get the production profiles, you get the trade values, all that other stuff. But if you just want to look at my Fantasy Pros rankings, the copy paste of the code, go to idparmy.com, check that out. Let me know what you think. I got some little blurbs written in there on some of those guys and gals as well. Be sure to check out our sponsors of the show. The Underdog Fantasy, doing a lot of underdog drafts. I actually just did one earlier tonight while I was eating my dinner. Put a nice little team together, I thought. Was able to get Christian McCaffrey, who I don't have much of this year. Last year, I was at the top of a lot of drafts. I had him a lot, hurt my team. This year, I've been getting a lot of those middle picks. But it was nice to get a little Christian McCaffrey this late in the season and get him together on a team. So use promo code IDP Army. Click the link in the description. And also, one last thing is I put all of the ranking video links are in the description of this video. So if you are just, like I said, just finding our channel because of, for whatever reasons, and you haven't been here before, you want to check out my linebacker, defensive line, and defensive back rankings. All those videos are down in the description. Click the links, check those out. Sub our channel. We'll be busy this season. Yeah. Patreon only live stream will start up right before week 1. We'll do the Sunday morning IDP live like we've been doing the last 3 seasons. This will be year 4. Every Sunday morning. I think we start at like 11 Eastern, 11:30 Eastern. I'm not 100% sure what time we'll start. Answering as many and all questions as we can from anybody and everybody on YouTube that slides through. Like I said, Saturday nights for the Patreons, we'll answer all y'all's questions for 45 minutes to an hour there. Make sure we take care of y'all who've been taking care of us, buttering that bread, winning those titles. The last thing I said I was going to talk about was the Big Dog Bash. By the Big Dogs Gonna Eat, Big BDGE, Nick Ercolano, and those guys over there. I minted my Big Dog Bash pass. Got that. I did a video on that a couple weeks ago. You can go check it out. Some of the information might be a little dated because some things have been updated since then. But threw the IDP Army's hat in the ring on the most entertaining, most documented, most awesome fantasy football league of all time. the NFT project, whatever you want to call it. But I'm in there. Hopefully going to represent the IDP Army in a good way, in a big way. All right, we're going to get the name out there. We're going to go out there and we're going to knock heads. I mean, let's not even fuck around. We're going to knock heads in. We're going to kick teeth in. We're going to win. All right, and then it's a wrap. Nobody can stop us. IDP's coming. All right. All right, I'm just kind of rambling now. We got so much good content on the channel right now. I mean, it's almost unreal. The Mike Clay interview went up last week. We got desperation wide receivers, desperation running backs. We got solid guys. We got sleepers. We got fades. I mean, we got all kinds of stuff. So we appreciate you for rocking with us. Yeah, it was a long weekend. My throat is just literally, I would have probably recorded a podcast sooner, but like my throat hurts so much from just like all the yelling and talking and just being like, ah, at the expo and getting to meet, some of y'all who were out there who did come through that have supported the channel and watched us grow and been supporting the podcast since the very beginning. So, it was a great time to meet y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out the rest of the stuff on the channel, and I'll be back, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days with another episode of some IDP fantasy goodness. All right, take it easy.